So I'm reading some exciting news that the recovery from COVID-19 in our society could lead to a roaring 20s kind of environment. They were talking about how people will be more wanting to go out to mingle with others because they've been cooped up for a year and a half now. How there might be this massive orgy, if you will. I've always wanted to get involved in a massive orgy, but minus the sex. Lots of people gathering together where you might bump into somebody with the right connections. You might start a business with them. You might meet your future partner, or you might discover something new, learn new things. I've always wanted an orgy, sex-free orgy, if you will. I've always wanted that. Unfortunately, in the years leading up to the pandemic, and obviously during the pandemic, we've kind of been going the opposite direction. Right? We've been wanting to order everything from Amazon. We've been wanting to even before the pandemic, see how to live like it was in pandemic the whole time, right? We wanted to order stuff online. We wanted to work from home. Well, I guess they got their wish, but they realized. I hope they wake up to realize that that wasn't what they wished for. Now, I do have some problems with the Roaring Twenties kind of environment. I hope it doesn't lead to even more bias against people who don't want the Roaring Twenties environment, right? As much as I want to go out to network with people, I still love my single life. I first discovered this when I was working on my PhD, actually. I had just gotten into a major disagreement with my girlfriend and we broke up. And a few weeks after we broke up, I wanted to go to a coin show and I didn't have a girl to take to the coin show. And I almost didn't go. And I was tempted to call her again and see if we could fix things. I realized that wasn't the right thing to do, but I didn't know how to go to that coin show. I ended up going to the coin show without her, and I had the best time of my life. And unfortunately, I never seemed to learn my lesson. I have fun by myself for 6 months, 12 months, and then I meet another girl and I start the whole cycle all over again. So 3 years later, I was getting ready to compete in my first Computer Olympiad conference. This was in Tokyo. And just before that, I had broken up with my girlfriend again. She had been upset that I had been spending so much time writing computer games, not going to see her. She was living in Rochester, New York at this point. I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I ended up going to that Computer Olympiad by myself, and I went to Mount Fuji, and I had the best time of my life again. So I stayed single for another year after that. And then I repeat that same story over and over and over again. When I'm with the girl, I miss the time by myself. When I'm by myself, I miss the time with the girl. And that's why we go into quarantine and then Roaring Twenties, and then that's how I feel about it. But I hope it doesn't lead to discrimination against people who want their alone space. I think it might go into an extreme discrimination, and then we might snap out of it. That might be a good idea. If people who love being single feel like they're being excluded, they might make more noise, and then it might revert, right? So I'm excited about that. Let me tell you a few experiences I had about people who didn't realize that they want to go out and mingle when they really should have. When I was in college, this was in the late 2000s, my friends used to love to play poker online. I didn't want to get involved in that stuff just because I felt like it was a waste of time. I'd rather be learning new things and getting good grades, right? So my classmate, he and his friend had shared this gambling account for some reason. So his friend owed him some money. And one year at his birthday party, I went to his birthday party. His girlfriend was there, and then his gambling friend had came to the party and repaid him a gambling debt. I think it was about $500 to $1,000, and repaid him in cash. And his eyes just really lit up. And I looked at him and I was like, gee, your eyes didn't light up when your girlfriend showed up. And I felt really sorry for the girl. I didn't say anything at the time. I felt really sorry for the girl. Eventually they broke up, and then I told my friend, gee, I remember that day. Your gambling buddy showed up with $500,000, and your eyes really lit up, and you didn't seem so excited about your girlfriend. He was embarrassed that I had to tell him that, if I remember correctly. Which is really sad. Which is really sad. We really ought to be meeting we ought to be finding our place in life, meeting the right connections, and not just gambling it away, right? A few years later, well, not a few years later, almost a decade later now, I love to play backgammon. Unfortunately, every time I go to one of those backgammon tournaments or even just a regional event, they always bet a lot of money on backgammon, more so than I can comfortably afford. So I don't get to do it very much. Now, about 2 years ago, before COVID anyway, I get an email saying that they can't hold these events anymore, and I'm like, why? And they were talking about how Washington State was cracking down on unlicensed gambling. I get really excited. They're not going to gamble anymore. Now I can finally go to more of these events. And to my dismay, they don't hold them anymore. Which is just really frustrating. I mean, we could be meeting a lot of important figures in our life, our future business partners, our future bosses, our future colleagues, future partners, but even a future best friend forever is not bad. But because they can't gamble, they would rather not do that. They would rather throw all this out the window for some reason. I hope the Roaring Twenties will change that equation a little bit. I had a dream one time. I dreamt that I was playing backgammon at a tournament and I had won $1 million. And the director of the tournament proceeds to hand me a big stack of cash, $1 million. And he's shaking my hand and asking me what I plan to do with this money. And I said, well, I'd love to play backgammon more. Now I can finally do it. And that's how I feel about it, really. And I'm saying to play as a social event. I'm not saying I want to try to turn that million into 2 million. I just want to be able to play. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't seem to grasp that concept. And I'm hoping the Roaring Twenties will change that equation a little bit.